Okay, we are live. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to the Sanctuary of Saints, where our mission is to grow, develop, and mature the children of God while building a self sustainable community. Right? So today we are here live on YouTube and we are live on Clubhouse for the purposes of conversation. Okay, for the purposes of questions, to present this in a way that we can have some community dialogue, if you will. Okay, Clubhouse is a space where you can go into the chat. We can bring you up on stage more freely. We can have good conversations. So we are also simul streaming on Clubhouse today for this purpose. I want to begin by giving, of course, all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who is the author and finisher of my faith and the source of the edification. All right. So, as maybe you all have heard, we have as a community a wonderful event that is coming up. It is the Feast of Weeks, it is the Feast of First Fruits, aka the Pentecost. And what we are doing specifically at the Lord's High Holy Day is we are celebrating and officiating two, not one, but two marriages. Okay. And also, we will be having a baby shower. All praises to the Most High. I think it is very important, that being said, that we communicate this point. And it's an overall point, but there's many obviously subpoints to it. The point or situation or matter, if you will, of marriage, okay, of marriage. In our community, there is certain understandings about what marriage is, okay, versus what marriage is not, what constitutes a lawful marriage according to the Bible, versus what what does not. And to be quite honest, when I first came into this community, I was taught a certain perspective, a certain way. Um, as I begin to gain more knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, see different situations happen, understand different wisdoms involved, what I am teaching today is different than what you might have heard me teach previously uh, on the topic. I wouldn't say different. I would just say in addition to. There's more, right? So pretty much what I had settled on by the time I had decided to start teaching formally about the topic of marriage in my former congregation was that marriage, or that sexual intercourse, I will say, right? I will just use the word intercourse. Intercourse is marriage, or intercourse is sin, right? And that does remain true today, right? However, the issue with that wisdom is vague, okay? It is vague. I think most people that are in our community, right? Um, when I mean our community, I mean the nation of Israel, not specifically Sanctuary of Saints. I think they would agree to that. I think what they say is that, you know, sexual intercourse is the consummation of a marriage. It is what puts you in a marriage in the eyes of God, right? But we do also understand that there are situations clearly, or we should, that would not constitute a marriage. For example, I will say grape. We're on YouTube, so I want to make sure I use YouTube language. All right. So for the situation of grape, if you will, right? Or those types of actions we know or we see in the law, it does not constitute a marriage. Or if we see adultery, we can clearly see that that intercourse is not a marriage. So I think by default, the fairest position that I will just broadly call us Hebrew Israelites have when it comes to this topic is that it is marriage, the consummation of a marriage, or it is sin or the transgression of one of the laws of God. I think that is something that can be easily accepted by all of our community. With that being said, it is still limited. It is still not um, complete. That is an incomplete understanding. And what happens is when you have an incomplete understanding, you begin to go into whoredom and folly, right? Whenever we are not completely understanding the wisdom that is given to us through our text, we begin to, as a nation, go into folly, and we will discuss what that means later in class. Okay. Immorality. We begin to have broken homes, broken marriages, dysfunction, disorder, where we're trying to figure out why we are fighting amongst each other like cats and dogs, and specifically within marriages, right? It can't be this bad. It can't be like this. And the reason why we have so many broken homes, broken, I'm going to use air quotes, marriages, broken families, is because we have an incomplete understanding as a community, as a people right now, as to what constitutes a biblically lawful marriage. We are so focused on maintaining the status quo of not dealing with our captives system, right? Meaning, I don't want to go down, or I don't feel like I need to go down, file paperwork with the government because of whatever your reasons are, right? For tax purposes or otherwise. Okay, so we have been so hell bent on avoiding the system and not dealing with Babylon, so forth and so on, that you've completely ignored the fact that they got that system, right? They got that way of doing things from the Bible, from our Torah, from our instructions. That is the foundation in which they have set up marriage to be properly legitimized, if you will. As we've used this excuse of captivity to do what we feel is right in our own eyes. So not only do we reject the, and I'm saying this by and large for people in our community, right? We reject by and large um, going through the authorities that we have above us to constitute a marriage because we don't like some of their rules and things like that. I'm not knocking people for that. But then at the same time, we reject by and large our sages, all right, and our judges before us who have said how it is supposed to do or supposed to be done. We also reject that too, right? So then if I mention the oral tradition, which I'm not going to do in this class, right? I'm only going to show you in the Bible, right? I'll just be the sage. I'll just be the oral tradition myself in front of you on camera. I don't have to say that, right? But what you do is you reject them too, right? And what you do is you get your own understanding, and everybody is doing what is right in their own eyes, right? And specifically the men, because you have the power, you have the authority to just say, this woman, I have planted my seed. She is mine. All right. And that simply is not how it works. Right. It does not work that way in the Bible. So today, what we want to do is get a good, solid biblical understanding of a lawful marriage versus whoredom. A lot of you all, I'm going to say it right now, you are claiming to be in a marriage and you are not. You have been with these people for 5, 10, 15 years, and you got 5, 6, 7 children. You are not in a marriage, though, biblically speaking. All right. So I want to come right out and say it's one of those reality checks today. I want to make sure you understand it's a reality check that you're going to be getting. It's going to be a reset for a lot of listeners. Okay. Just like we have to relearn things, right? There's going to be, some of us had issues, stop eating certain foods. Right? Some of us had issues with, man, I don't want to grow up my beard. Right? It's going to be the same type of issue when you find out today what the Torah, right, and the Tanakh says about a biblically lawful marriage. You're going to have to do some readjusting, right? So I want those inside of our community to understand, right, what essentially is happening on Pentecost. A standard is being set on what constitutes a biblically lawful marriage. Not one, but two. I've communicated to both parties, right, who felt that they were what? Remember we were talking about this, Aaron? And I'll just say Aaron because he's obviously congratulations getting married, right? A biblically lawful marriage. That's what got my head. I'm like, wait. He said we are biblically married, and I was like, I had to think about that for a couple of days and say, no, you're not, right? So I want everybody to know this lesson is starting at home. It's starting with 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 us, which is why I'm doing this. It has nothing to do with popularity or clout or being controversial. You can say it's in-house cleaning, in-house straightening, right? We have some public matters that you guys are seeing and we're going to be celebrating, and then we have, private matters that are private. But anyway, it is the culmination of this lesson and where it comes from. And I wanted to make sure that it was also done on Clubhouse on a publicly um, conversational platform, right? So that others can see, listen, have questions, have opposition, right? Because I want to deal with it all today. We have to get this straight. We have to get this right. I want it to not be so long. I'm going to try to not be um 2 hours. I wanted to try to do an hour, but there is extensive. There's so much scripture. So I'm going to go through it as quickly as possible, right? But still, at a pace where you can digest what's being said, okay? But you will have to have your notes ready. Aaron, with that being said, when you read with decent pace because we have a lot of scriptures to go through, and I want to make sure we have good enough time for anyone to have any questions, comments, challenges, whatever the case may be. All right. So
Absolutely.
let's get going. So let's start with the blueprint of marriage. This is what the blueprint of marriage is in scripture. We're going to start with the most important marriage in all of the Bible. That marriage is between the Lord Himself and the nation of Israel. Jeremiah 3 and 14.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 3, and verse 14. Turn, O backsliding children, saith the Lord, for I am married unto you, and I will take you one of a city and two of a family, and I will bring you to Zion.
So we're establishing here very quickly that the Lord is indeed married to Israel. Says it right there in the text. That's Jeremiah 3 and 14. Jeremiah 31 and 32.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 31, and verse 32. Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 32. Not according to the covenant that
Actually,
I
start at verse
made.
31. 31.
Verse 31. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith the Lord.
Although what?
Although I was an husband unto them, saith the Lord.
So now we see a second scripture affirming that there is a marriage to the nation of Israel, and that marriage is by way of a covenant. Marriage is a covenant. We'll start there. Okay? So I'm just establishing really quickly that the Most High is indeed married to Israel in Scripture. Under, right? And what constitutes that marriage is a covenant. Right? And we're going to talk about what makes up a covenant today. Okay. Go to Genesis chapter 17, verse 7. Let's see what that covenant or that agreement is in this marriage.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 17, and verse 7.
Mhm.
And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee and to thy seed after thee.
That's the covenant. The covenant or the agreement or the marriage is for the Lord to be a God unto us and for us to be his people. That's the marriage. That's the agreement that constitutes the marriage, that makes the marriage legitimate. This is the ketubah, if you will. Exodus 6 and 7.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 6, and verse 7.
Mhm.
And I will take you to me for a people, and I will be to you a God. And ye shall know that I am the Lord your God, which bringeth you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians.
I'm just repeating this over and over again through the scriptures. Right? There's others as well, but the concept of the covenant, right? There's the covenant is vast and it has a lot of intricacies, which are the laws of God. But the roots or the foundation of what the covenant is, in layman's terms, or just to make it short, simple, and sweet, the covenant or the agreement is for Him to be our God and for us to be His people. That is the marriage between. That's what constitutes a marriage between the Most High and Israel as a nation. Witnesses. Go to Isaiah chapter 44, verse 8.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 44, and verse 8.
Mhm.
Fear ye not, neither be afraid. Have not I told thee from that time, and have declared it? Ye are even my witnesses. Is there a God beside me? Yea, there is no God. I know
Right.
not any.
Okay. So this is also another aspect of the marriage. Witnesses. Witnesses to what? The power that He is, in fact, our God. Right? He is, in fact, our husband. He is, in fact, married to us, and we are indeed His people. He's affirming that here in the Tanakh. Right? Just want to lay the foundation. This is the blueprint. of what a marriage looks like in the Bible. You have a husband or a prospective husband, you have a prospective wife. They come together to make an agreement, the eyes of witnesses, right? Now, go to Exodus 3 and 14. But before all of that happens, just showing you real quick, let's back up and let's just start from the beginning. Before that happens, though, right, when you actually enter into the covenant, you have a betrothal period. All right. I'm going to show you guys the betrothal period between the Most High and the nation of Israel. Exodus chapter 3 and verse 14.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 3, and verse 14. And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am has sent me unto you.
So this is a passage of scripture that is highlighting the end of a conversation whereby the Lord says, hey, go tell Israel, I'm going to be their husband. I'm going to deliver them. That's what it means to be our God, our power, our ruler, our authority, our savior, our protector. Hey, go tell the children of Israel, I see you over there, right? I love you. I'm going to protect you. And then he's like, they're going to say, who are you? And then he says, tell him I am that I am. This is the introduction of the Lord being the nation of Israel's husband, or him desiring to be a prospective husband to the nation of Israel. Okay? And go and tell them this is who I am. Now, of course, um, let's keep reading on. Let's keep reading on.
Verse 15. And God said moreover unto Moses, thou shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, the Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, have sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial into all generations.
All right, this is the betrothal period. Hey guys, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Right? This is my name forever. I am that I am, meaning I am all that you need. That is the understanding. That's the understanding of I am that I am. That's the game that he ran on Israel, if you will. I'm saying this in layman's terms and I'm being facetious, right? To compare it to a modern day situation. Okay, so the Lord comes to Moses, who's the leader. He designates to be the leader. Go tell Israel, I said, what's up? I'm going to be your guy. I'm going to be your protector, so forth and so on. Read on.
Go and gather the elders of Israel together, and say unto them, the Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, appeared unto me, saying, I have surely visited you, and seen that which is done to you in Egypt. And I have said, I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt unto the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, unto a land flowing with milk and with honey.
See that? So this is again the betrothal period. This is what I'm going to do for you all. And then as he's showing them all the plagues and delivering them out of the hands of the Egyptians, this is all the betrothal period. See, we're proving each other. You're seeing that I'm your husband, right? Now you guys obey me, be obedient. That's you guys as in be my people. Don't go a whoring after other gods. Of course, we did a terrible job at that, right? Nevertheless, he was a husband unto us, and I'm just walking you through that process, right? So now let's go to. All right, oh, you read verse 17. Let's read verse 18.
Verse 18. And they shall hearken to thy voice, and thou shalt come, thou and the elders of Israel, unto the king of Egypt, and ye shall say unto him, the Lord God of the Hebrews hath met with us. And now let us go. We beseech thee 3 days' journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God.
Right. We got a date with the Lord. Right. He's our husband now. He wants us, and he wants us to be away from you. He don't want us to be dealing with you anymore. We got to go and be under his authority and his leadership. This is the betrothal phase, if you will. All right. So now some people call it courtship, whatever the case may be. We see that there. Now, with that being said, go back and read verse 12 again. I want to make this point.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 3, and verse 12. And he said, certainly I will be with thee, and this shall be a token unto thee, that I have sent thee, when thou hast brought forth the people out of Egypt. Ye shall serve God upon this mountain.
Now, remember that point. We shall serve God upon that mountain. It's important to know or remember that because that mountain is the site of the marriage ceremony. All right. Will be the site of the marriage ceremony. Okay. So now go to, and I'm like I said, I'm gonna be moving quickly because I have a lot to get through. Okay. So if you're on YouTube, of course, you can rewind it, so forth and so on. I think you can do the same thing in Clubhouse. So I'm not necessarily worried about going too fast. So now let's go to, let's go now here, there, that. Exodus 19. Let's go Exodus 19, chapter 3.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 19, and verse 3. Unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself.
Hmm?
Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine.
This is the presenting of the ketubah. This is the presenting of the covenant or the contract. All right, you see, I've proved. So then that also shows in this cycle, there is some proving that is going on, right? Specifically by the husband. I've done this, I've done that. You've seen this, you've seen that. Now you got to show something. You got to show that you will be obedient and faithful to me. Okay. So there's a two-way courtship here, right? And then he says, and then you're going to be my people, I'll be your God, but I need you guys to show something too. Right. So there's always an expectation, right? There's a covenant, an agreement, expectations written down, spelled out by both parties. Right? So they knew what this was. We knew what we were getting into. He did not just come and say, hey, I'm God, man. Rock with me. The people chose. There was consent there. All right. There was buildup. There's a meeting. Hello. I'm this person. Oh, okay. Nice to meet you. I want to do this for you. I'm blah 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 blah. We're in engaged. We're in a marriage, or we're heading towards a marriage, right? It's very important to see these steps. We're going to get physical steps, of course, with physical human situations, but it's important to understand number one, first and foremost, this is the way that the Lord is married to Israel. Why wouldn't you duplicate that process? Why, by default? Why wouldn't you do it? Right? Something to think about. So let's go now to Jeremiah 31 and 32 because I want to emphasize this point of order. We're gonna read it again, all right?
It's
To
the
make it
book of
visual.
Jeremiah, chapter 31 and verse 32.
Mm-hmm.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break,
So the
although
covenant, I'm sorry, go ahead and keep reading.
which my covenant they break, although I was an husband unto them, saith the Lord.
Right. So I want to make this point in reading the scripture again that the covenant was made with who? The fathers. Right? The covenant was made with the fathers and specifically the elders of Israel. So come you'll see in the Torah where he says, go to the elders. And the elders went with him to speak to Pharaoh. It wasn't the entire nation of people. See, we don't understand the intricacies in the law by and large as a people. So the covenant itself is the agreement itself is made with the Father. Doesn't that sound familiar? Right? Same way that we're going to see in the Torah that these marriage agreements were made with the fathers. It's still the Lord is still he's operating the same way he expects us to operate. So I want to make sure that you understand and see that the text says that the covenant was made with the fathers, which is how the people that aren't the fathers could be witnesses to that. So the marriages between a nation, right? And the descendants of the people that are not there and not born yet. But the actual covenant or agreement, right, was entered into by Moses and the elders, men of the great assembly, the priest, Aaron, as we'll see. Okay? So this is the order of operation. The Lord went to the heads of a people, made a suggestion, a proclamation. I'll do this for you. I'll do that for you. I want to be a husband to you. And now all you got to do is be obedient to me. And so now we also can see gender roles here, if you would, on a spiritual level, but relate them to a physical level. The man, he provides, he protects, he approaches, says, hey, I want to do this for you, right? And in turn, the woman is supposed to be obedient and subservient to him. That's the blueprint, right? That's what it is right there. No more, no less. If anybody has a better breakdown of how the Lord is married to the nation of Israel, please submit it. All right? Please submit it. Now, in Exodus chapter 19, verse 7 through 8, we see an acceptance, right, on its face of this proposal. Okay? We see an acceptance. So there's consent there. I'm showing you all the process. Now, the people that were present at Mount Sinai, again, are the witnesses to the marriage ceremony between God and Israel. Read verse 9.
You want to Exodus 19? Oh, my bad.
Yes, yes, Exodus 19, verse 9.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 19 and verse 9. And the Lord said unto Moses, lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto the Lord.
See that? And most, so there's this going back and forth. Okay, the Lord is saying this, and then you have the father who is going to the prospective daughter. I'm relaying, I'm kind of, like I said, giving it in the modern day example. And he said, the Lord said this. Then the people say, okay, that sounds good for us. We agree, right? But they are essentially agreeing, verifying, acting as the witnesses to this union. Jump over to verse 19.
This is the book of
Actually, verse 18. Verse 18.
It's the book of Exodus, chapter 19 and verse 18. And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in a fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly.
Mm-hmm.
And when the voice of the trumpet sounded long, and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and God answered him by a voice.
This is the Lord coming to his marriage ceremony on that mount. Remember that same mountain that we read in Exodus? So there's going to be a token. You guys are going to come and worship at this mount when I have done these things for you. This is the Lord coming to his wedding ceremony on that mount. Read.
And the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai, and the top of the mount, and the Lord called Moses up to the top of the mount, and Moses went up.
He called Moses up to meet him there. This ceremony was not with every single one involved. So I'm kind of just making sure we understand the actual ceremony that's happening. It's between the Lord and the nation of Israel. And the people that are Israelites that are alive at that time, right? They're at the ceremony, but they're not in the ceremony. All right. He's calling Moses up. He's dealing with Moses. It was also priests who were, even further back. I'm showing you guys the order here. Read.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Go down, charge the people, lest they break through unto the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish.
Right. You're not involved. You can't come this close, right? I know you guys are witnesses. I know you guys are hearing what's going on and you're seeing what's going on. You guys have acquiesced, but you can't get too close to the altar, right? I know I'm super interesting. You've never seen anything like this. Read on.
And let the priests also, which come near to the Lord, sanctify themselves, lest the Lord break forth upon them.
Mm-hmm.
And Moses said unto the Lord, The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for thou chargest us, saying, Set bounds about the mount and sanctify it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord said unto him, Away, get thee down, and thou shalt come up, thou and Aaron with thee. But let not the priest and the people break through to come up unto the Lord, lest he break forth upon them.
I don't think y'all understand. The Lord is what just happened was the Lord said, "Hey, make sure the people don't come up here. Only you guys." And then what Moses said was, "We already fortified everything. We know. We back there. We did what you said before. We sanctified ourselves, like you said. Ain't nobody coming up." And then the Lord had to he reiterated himself to say, "Hey, no, make sure go back down there and tell them again. Make sure they don't come up because I'd hate to have to kill one of y'all on our wedding day." That's what happened with the Ark of the Covenant. Okay. So this is the conversation that just happened. We're getting married here today on this mountain. They can't come but so far. These witnesses that are the people, they can't come but so far. Make sure that they don't come up. We already did, Lord. Make sure again. All right. So nobody died that day. Because you have to tell Israelites 2 and 3 times because we're hard headed, stiff necked, and rebellious people. And we always want to look and see, and we got to actually touch it to see if it's hot. It's just how we are. Blacks, Hispanics, natives, y'all know. You got to tell us twice so nobody dies. All right. On the wedding day. So this was essentially the marriage ceremony. Now, when you go to Exodus chapter 20, verse 18. Book of Exodus, chapter 20, and verse 18. And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoke And when the people saw it, they removed, stood afar off. Hmm. And, and they said unto Moses,
Go
Speak
with
thou.
us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die.
So then they said, look, you don't have to tell us twice. We see that y'all getting married. You straight. We see that the Lord is pronouncing because what's happening from chapters 20, 21, 22, and 23, these are the vows that are being proclaimed here. You know how you have marriage vows. I will do this, I promise to do that, da 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 da. Right? Exodus 20 on through 23, the Lord is saying, thou shalt not. These are his vows. Right? And of course, the vows include the inheritance, the do's and don'ts. If you do this and I'll do that, that is the ketubah, that is the contract, right? Those are the vows being spoken. And the people's like, all right, we good. We're good. We heard these, but we're scared. There's a lot of spiritual things happening. I don't want to get too deep off into that. We got 2 or 3 other classes we could do on what's happening on Mount Sinai. But this is for the purpose of marriage today, right? So we're good. Well, we're over here. Y'all, you just tell us how the rest of the ceremony going. We got you, man. We believe you. You made the vows. We accepted. We agreed. Y'all good. This is what's going on here. Okay? So first and foremost, this is the way or the methodology, right? The principle in which how marriage works biblically speaking. This is the most important marriage in the entire scripture. That is the format in which it was done. Right? So now let's go to Exodus 24, verse 1.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 24, and verse 1. And he said unto Moses, Come up unto the Lord, thou and Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off. And Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come nigh, neither shall the people go up with him. And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord and all the judgments. And all the people answered with one voice and said, All the words which the Lord hath said, we will do.
Read.
And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord and rose up early in the morning and builded an altar under the hill and 12
Mm.
pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel.
Read.
And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people. And they said, All that the Lord hath said, we will do, and be obedient.
Read.
And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it upon the people, and said, Behold the blood of the covenant which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words.
What you just read, or what we just read in your hearing, is the wedding feast and the consummation of the marriage. All right? That is the finality. You saw the wedding feast. There was the sacrifices made. Sacrifices just burnt offering and people and the priest eating the food. You saw the wedding feast and you saw the consummation, right? The blood being sprinkled. That's in the spirit, if you will. Right? A spiritual marriage, obviously. That was a spiritual consummation. You had a wedding feast, consummation. I just took you through the entire process. You have a betrothal, showed you what that was like. That is the proving, and then you have a proving courting phase. Still all the same thing, right? You have the presentation of the covenant or the agreement. The other party verbally, okay, we accept. You heard us read that a couple of times. All the words that you say, we'll do. So there's an initial proposal, and okay, that sounds good. Let's go for it. All right. Then it's like, okay, we're now going to have the ceremony. So all those things that I said, right? We're still good with that, right? So then there's a reaffirmation. Yes, we want to do this again. Then there's a ceremony. Okay. And then there's a feast. Then there's a consummation. That is a biblical marriage. Period. Now we're going to go into the Torah and see some examples of this. All right. Playing out just like that. And then we're going to see examples where it doesn't play out like that. And what you're going to find is that a lot of you guys' lives mirror and imitate the examples that don't constitute a biblically lawful marriage, and you're going to have to deal with it. All right. So now let's go to, we're not going to go there yet. I'm going to say this first, and then we're going to go. There are three ways we see in Torah for a marriage to be legitimate. All ways are done before two or more witnesses. Okay. Let's go to Deuteronomy 19 and 15. Deuteronomy 19 and 15 and bring that up. I'm
It's
gonna
the
break
book.
this down.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 19 and verse 15. One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity or for any sin, in any sin that he sinneth. At the mouth of two witnesses or at the mouth of three witnesses shall the matter be established.
Okay. This law is saying that all matters of life must be established by two or three witnesses. How do I know that that's what the understanding is? Because I know the definitions of the words that are being utilized there in English. Words that are being utilized in English have Hebrew meanings. It's very important, especially as I'm learning in these classes, right? Especially in matters of Torah, especially in matters of Hebrew, to understand what the words mean in Hebrew so the right idea is conveyed when it is taught. Okay. So now, matter. Let's look at that word matter. Okay. It says matter shall be established. I'm going to start with that. Matter is the word debar. Right? Debar means a word as spoken of or thing. Thing meaning situation. So literally the word matter means everything spoken about. Every situation that comes up in life is considered a matter. That's what a matter is. If I talk to Aaron about um, how we're going to get the drums from his house down to our feast day, that is a matter, right? If there comes a point of disagreement where I say, "Hey, bro, you were supposed to do it like this, and then we didn't get the drums." It was a matter that now has to be established. We have to now have a conversation because there's something that went wrong, there's something that went awry. Now, two or three witnesses, we have to have a conversation in front of them, and I have to say, "Hey, well, I told Aaron da 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 da, and we agreed to do da 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 da, and then he didn't do it." And then Aaron will say, "No, well, I didn't know it was this drum. I thought it was that drum." And we have to have a conversation in front of two or three witnesses to establish the matter of our drums and the issue we're having and whether and why they didn't travel down to Columbus, right? Every situation that you talk about, number one, I just have to make sure we teach the Torah. Every situation is a matter. Everything that you speak about, every problem that you have, right? Every suggestion that you want to make, it is considered a matter, right? And when it comes to judging that matter or judging that situation, because there will be a time or there could be a time, right, where that matter has to be judged. When would that time occur when that matter has to be judged, Aaron? Based off what I'm saying, could you tell or no?
Yes, I would say the matter would have to be established after the break in the deal.
Exactly. Thank you. I just sometimes I gotta ask my good brother questions just to make sure what I'm saying is making sense. You have to have a matter established when there's a problem, right? This is why Christ is saying, and you go to your brother first if there's an offense. And we're going to get into what sin means and what iniquity means in Hebrew, right? This is why Christ is saying, all right, yeah, first go to your brother and try to reconcile, right? Because it's just a one-on-one thing and he offends you, right? But if you can't work it out amongst yourselves, now you have to take two or three witnesses to establish any matter. So everything that you speak about is potentially a matter that would have to be settled by two or three witnesses. So of course, by default, marriage would have to be established by two or three witnesses by default. And we're going to go through scriptures to show you why that is the case. You cannot have a marriage that isn't validated by two or three witnesses. And the Torah is going to show you over and over and over and over again why that is. Okay. So now let's move to the word. Uh, no, I want to make one more point. Marriage is about why marriage is a matter. Marriage is both spoken about, we saw that read in the text, between both parties, right? So there is a situation in and of itself, marriage between both parties, okay? And there could potentially be a breach in the agreement between both parties. So their matter has to be established by two or three witnesses so that if and when there is a breach or a problem, we can actually go back and say, this is the solution based off of this that we have here, the status quo. We have this contract, we have this agreement, right? This person is in violation, this person is not. If we don't have that there, then you don't have an established marriage. You don't have one at all. Aaron, am I making sense to you? It's important for you to understand.
Yeah, I'm understanding. I'm following.
Okay. Just want to make sure, right? So now, if I'm saying if it's not, if you need me to go back, if you got a question, let me know. That's what this class is about.
I will definitely do that.
Uh, uh, Aaron's getting married, guys. He definitely is locked in. He's the one, right, getting married. All right. He's the one that's going to be going through these steps here in the next few weeks, right? Couple weeks. So that's why I'm really locked in on him today. All right, specifically in our other brothers. Well, let me check the temperature. Let me check the temperature on Clubhouse. Like, why? No comments yet? No? All right. So let's look at the word sin in that verse. All right. The word sin in Deuteronomy 19 and 15. I'll read it again because I've been talking for some time. One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity or for any sin in any sin that he sinned. Right? The issue with not knowing the Hebrew is that you don't know what sin is. You literally don't know what that word is going into. You don't know what iniquity is and what that word is going into. So now you have incomplete understandings of this text. Now it's like, well, yeah, this is talking about in a court case, a matter of judgment, and da 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 da. Now understand it's talking about all the issues of life and all the offenses that can come in life from other people. Is all this is saying. And some could be great and some could be very small. But you don't know that it's saying that because you don't know Hebrew, right? Or you don't look into it. You don't take that into consideration. You're reading it with an English mentality. All right. So now let's look at that word. Iniquity is Strong's H5771 Avon. Right. I'm going to try to get a little bit better in saying these words too. Right? It's pronounced avon, which means perversity, moral evil, or fault. It also means punishment. Sin is Strong's H2399, which is hate. Almost sounds like hate, right? A crime or its penalty. It's the same word used in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 17 and 18. Okay? Let's go there and read that. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 17 and 18.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, and verse 17. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord.
Right. So this is literally saying to correct your neighbor when they offend you and not to hold it inside of yourself and say, I'm going to pay you back for that later. You wouldn't want anybody to do that to you. So if your neighbor, this is talking about if a neighbor steps on your shoe, all right, that's the sin. It's talking about an offense against you. It's not talking about, hey, you broke one of God's laws that he said, thou shalt not. No, it's talking about just a personal grievance here. But you didn't know that is a, sin has multiple words in the Bible, right? The English word sin has multiple Hebrew words. So you have to know what Hebrew word is talking about. Sometimes that word is just talking about a simple offense. Like I said something to Aaron that he didn't like. That is a sin. That word will say sin in the Bible, right? Am I going to be, put to death for, you know, hurting Aaron's feelings because of my words? No, but I've offended my brother and he should come to me and say, hey, brother, you offended me when that happened, right? And so forth. And then if I accept it, okay, my bad, bro. But it's like, bro, I didn't even say that. Bro, you did say that. Now you got to get two or three more witnesses, like Christ said, to establish the matter. All Christ is doing in his law is reinforcing what Leviticus 19 is saying. All right. But back to Deuteronomy 19, it's important to understand those two words in context. It's literally talking about in any matter, a matter of iniquity or sin, meaning in a matter of a breach of contract, in a matter of, an offense against, this sister said this and I didn't like that, right? So now what are we going to do about it? These matters had to be handled. And so two or three witnesses were required. So it's all matters in life, right? Whether it's a small claim or dispute. She called me an idiot. No, I didn't. All the way to adultery. It covers this matter. It covers here in Deuteronomy chapter 19 and 15. So I want to make sure that is crystal clear. Where two or three are gathered, I'll be in the midst. Let me stop. I think that point is made. Okay. So now this effectively covers any agreement made between parties because covenants have to be made between two parties. The reason why covenants have to be made between two parties, as Aaron said before, is in case of breach of contract. Go to Galatians chapter 3, verse 19. We're going to relay this back to the marriage that we just broke down between the Lord and Israel. Right? And we said what the law was, what the ketubah or the contract or the covenant. All right, read.
This is the book of Galatians, chapter 3, and verse 19.
Mhm.
Wherefore then serveth the law? It was added because of transgressions, till the seed should come to whom the promise was made. And
See
it
that?
was ordained by angels in the hand of a mediator.
See that? So that's the reason why. The reason why you got the covenant, which is the law or the ketubah, if you will, it was added because of transgression. Transgression, that word there means fault. You have to know what these words mean. So it's letting you know you have to have a marriage covenant in case there's a breach. Of course, where we love each other, we're gonna be together forever. And then what happens when things break down? You would have to have proof or evidence that you were married in the first place. This is what the nation of Israel is not understanding, right? As a whole, those that are inside the knowledge of the truth and outside. You guys is practicing this whole family marriage thing way back. All right, we're going to continue on. So now let's go to these these laws in Torah that would demand two or three witnesses to your marriage to establish that you are married. Exodus 21 and 9.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 21, and verse 9. And if he have betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish.
Mhm.
And if he do not these three unto her, then shall she go out free without money.
This law is in context of a woman who was given as a wife to be a maid servant. Right? So we have different tiers and classes of Israelites. Okay? All right. These are all matters that have to be established. How would it be determined if this girl's food, clothes, and raiment were diminished? Does anybody know, Aaron? How would it be that, like, we read these things and we're like, okay, her food, clothes, and raiment, they diminished. All right. But then it says she can go out free. How would it be determined if her food, clothes, and raiment's diminished? What does that look like?
I would say that looks like the husband being neglectful, maybe not providing as he should be. That would be my
Yeah,
answer.
that's fair, right? But look, anybody can say that. Anybody can say he not providing for me, he not doing X, Y, and Z. You can say that. How would it be determined though, if that was the case?
Two or three witnesses.
Well, yes. All right. There would be judges. But before that, we have to pay attention to something. There would have to be an agreement or a covenant made what her food, clothes, and raiment would be, right? How can you say my food, clothes, and raiment have been diminished if we didn't have an agreement on what your food, clothes, and raiment would be? You understand? This is the evidence that there is an establishment of a covenant there that's agreed upon. And obviously, two or three witnesses, they're going to take this case to the judges who are going to decide and determine if this is the case or not, right? But you guys don't need the oral law or anything like that. That's foolishness, right? I know what happens in this case because I know that stuff. You guys are just stuck with the Bible, with what's written here, which just says this. You can't answer no questions about this text at all. Other texts we're going to get into, I'm going to ask some questions. You can't answer them. You can't answer them. They're not written right there. Trying to teach you guys something here. The Bible was written in a way where they expected you to know the oral tradition. Now, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 21 and 15.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 21, and verse 15. If a man have two wives, one beloved and another hated, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, then it shall be, when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he had, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated. which is indeed the firstborn.
Do you understand what that law was saying?
Nah, not no, not
Okay. So in a nutshell, thank you for being honest. I ask you these questions because if you don't know, it might other people probably don't either. Right. So in a nutshell, what that's saying is a man has two wives. One of them he don't like no more. Right. We have this happening in our nation. One of them he don't like no more. He don't want to deal with. Right. And that's his first wife. He got a child by the first wife. That is the firstborn is supposed to receive your inheritance. Okay. But let's say he don't like his first wife. But this law is saying you can't bypass the inheritance and give it to the wife of the second or the second wife and that child. You can't do that because you hate the first wife, right? Because we would say, well, I don't want to deal with you. An example you can see is Jacob, right? So it says he hated Leah, right? He was kind of, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that as well in the lesson. He was kind of bamboozled, right? He felt like. So he can't then make Rachel's firstborn son the heir based off of his hatred or his, you know, his lack of love for Leah. It's saying you can't do that. Right? Does that make sense?
yes, it does make sense.
All right. So that is what we just read in 15 and 16. Now, relaying it back to the point. If a man, if there was not an established relationship there, right? That man could literally say, this woman was a harlot that had my children. I wasn't married to her. He already don't like her. What would stop him from just completely stop dealing with her and throwing her away? There would obviously have to be proof and validation that that was indeed a wife in the first place. She can't just go to the judges and be like, I was his wife and I have his child and I don't get the inheritance. They're going to say, you guys are married? Yes. Where's your proof? How? How do we know that you're married? I have my ketubah right here. Okay. Read ketubah. All right, you guys are married. Right? Did anybody else like not understand? Actually, I'm talking to Clubhouse. Is there anybody that doesn't understand? How could you be married, right? Or how could you collect your inheritance if you are a woman that was hated, right? Your son's inheritance from your husband that don't want to deal with you no more if you never had no proof you was married.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So that part of the contract when you read when they were talking about they would go in the bed chambers and then after they would take like the bed sheets and then that the blood that would be part.
We'll go. We're gonna. That's a good question. We're getting there. You in the
Okay.
spirit. That's gonna be another example that we go to. It's all in the law, all over the place. All right, how marriages were established, and that you had to establish a marriage firmly in the eyes of the nation for it to be a thing. It's a matter of inheritance. It's a legal matter of inheritance as well. Everybody, it's a we don't think about that now because we're slaves. Right? Marriage is about inheritance. It's about blessing and passing things down in order, structure. Okay, very important. How could you, if a man wasn't bound to his wife outside of his word and a night that they had in the bedroom, he could literally just say, "I don't like this woman. I'm not dealing with her." Right? We had a child, right? And she can't collect on the inheritance because she doesn't have any proof she's married. Of course, there had to be two or three witnesses to validate that she is a wife. I'm just waiting. All right. Let's go now to Deuteronomy chapter 22 and 13.
You said 22 and 30 or 13?
13.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 22 and verse 13. If any man take a wife and go in unto her and hate her, and give occasions of speech against her, and bring up an evil name upon her, and say, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I found her not a maid.
Now, what does that mean?
I would, well, from what I know, I would say it would be her not being, she would have been already entered into.
Right. She's not a virgin. Right. We know there's two words for virgin. That's why you should know in the Hebrew. Right. So this word virgin is literally talking about Bethula, I believe. Somebody that's supposed to have not had sex with men, but had. So the agreement there obviously was beforehand, this woman was going to be a virgin. But this law is saying, hey, if a man goes inside this woman and he's like, nah, she is not no virgin, right? Or the man could go into the woman and he just don't like what it was. It wasn't good to him. He might decide to be evil and say, I want to get out of this situation because this is not gonna be good for me for the rest of my life. So I'm gonna do this. There's a law set up so men can't do that. Right? So you can't just say, well, I don't want to deal with my wife no more. After you go into her and it's like it wasn't what you thought it was gonna be. Okay. So that's what this is saying. He's saying if a man take a wife, right, first of all, we have to understand what it means to take a wife. All right. That's what we're learning right now. And he hate her and give cases of evil speech. And he's publicly saying this woman is not what I agreed she was. She's already been laid with. Read.
Then shall the father of the damsel and her mother take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity unto the elders of the city in the gate.
This is a legal matter. Has to be established by two or three witnesses. Everything does. So of course, first of all, how can this why would this even be a thing? Like if they didn't have two or three witnesses to validate that they were married in the first place, then he could have just done what a lot of Israelites do and just meet a girl at a feast day and lay with her and be like, that really wasn't it. You don't even have to you don't have to worry about this, right? If nobody established that you are in a relationship, why would he even need to go to the lengths of saying, I don't want her anymore? Why? Because you're in a covenanted contract. You're in a legal matter. You're in a situation whereby your resources, your time, your finances are tied to this woman. That's what ketubas and contracts do. That's why a man would say, nah, I don't want to do this anymore. And he's got to try to get out of it. If you don't have nothing holding you there or binding you to the marriage, then you don't have to make this statement at all. You don't have to say, well, I don't like this woman and I found her not a maid. You could just leave. There's nothing holding you there. I'm showing you guys marriage is established in the Torah via covenanted contracts, written out. People can see them, and there's witnesses to verify that that's indeed the case. This is how order is established in a functioning society, not just running around, laying with people 2 and 3 years and starting families here and there and talking about we married. That is foolishness. Read on.
Verse 16. And the damsel's father shall say unto the elders, I gave my daughter unto this man to wife, and he hateth her.
Mhm.
And lo, he hath given
That's all I
occasion.
needed right there. We'll get back to that because I'm going to make another point later in the lesson, coming back to the rest of it. But the point here is just to show you that these were matters that had to have been. These marriages, right? We're reading about the breaches or the issues that come from a marriage. They had to be established marriages for the matters to even be brought forth in Torah. We're not talking about anything unless we know and have proof you have taken a wife. Who's going to care about an inheritance if you haven't taken her to be a legit wife? You could just do what you want to do. That's the issue here, right? That's the folly involved in not operating this way. All right. So now go to Deuteronomy 24 and 1.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 24, and verse 1. When a man hath taken a wife and married her, and it come out to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanliness in her.
Stop right here. Is this not the third passage of scripture in Torah where it talks about a husband hating his wife and trying to not deal with her anymore, Aaron? Is this the third one?
Yes.
All right. So I want to make sure that we thoroughly understand this here. Okay. The Torah deals with marriage and specifically men not wanting to be dealing with these women anymore extensively. It understands, but then that also means you have to realize the burden of responsibility is on the man to maintain. We're always reading about the man and the father and their agreement, and the man and the father. And we're going to continue to read about that through we're about where we're at, hour and 16 in. Ooh, I might have to do 3 parts. I knew I was going to have to do two. We got a lot more information to get into. Got a lot more points to make. I won't say we're doing good on time. I would say we're not doing so great on time, but I'm still I'm going fast. All right, let me see who we got. We don't really have anyone asking questions. Can I keep going? All right, keep going. All right, so let's go ahead. Appreciate it. Just got the okay. Let's go ahead and keep reading.
All right. Oh,
Let's just read verse 1 again.
okay. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 24, and verse 1. When a man hath taken a wife and married her, and it come out to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanliness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand, and send her out of his house.
If your marriage isn't established covenant in the eyes of 2 or 3 witnesses, you no bill of divorcement. When she finds no favor in your eyes, you can just send her out of your house. Ain't that what happens anyway? Get out. I'm done dealing with you. You don't need. Why would you need to write a bill of divorce if there's nothing binding you to that woman? Yo, it's the intercourse. Really? It is? I will see. We're gonna see. Why would you need a bill of divorce is a legal matter, literally. When you look at that bill, it's a note. And by the way, here's another question for all of you you oral Torah and oral tradition, knockers and naysayers. What is written on that bill of divorce? Can you just scribble in crayon with a Crayola marker on a piece of paper and say, I divorce you because I don't like you anymore, and fold it up and give it to her and she go out? Is that what can be allowed? All right. Does that make any sense?
No, it
So
does not make any sense.
so what is written on that bill of divorce? And who can authorize
You want me to answer?
it? If you can.
Well, I would say, from how I'm understanding it, what's on the bill of divorce would be, hey, he or she broke this contract, or she broke this contract. She broke X, Y, and Z in the contract that we made, and this is unacceptable in the eyes of two or three witnesses or the judges, and then that would be that.
Right. You're giving some examples of what would be on there, right? Yep. And the judges, yep.
Oh, some examples. My bad. Like adultery,
No,
which would be
no, I'm saying you are right,
oh
but I'm saying you did give some examples when you said, for example, right? No, I'm saying you did give an example of what could be on there, right? But the point is, you don't know specifically because I also said, and what would constitute it being lawful, right? Or who would authorize that? And you kind of mentioned the judges. But the point there is, you don't know exactly. You can't say for sure, right?
correct.
Right? You're guessing and say, I would say it would be this. But then what if there's a rebuttal and she says, no, it ain't this and it's that, and he's trying to, right? You don't really know because it's not written there. But we know it's a matter that had to be dealt with. Just putting it out there. I know what happens. I know what's written on there very specifically. I know how it was authorized and handed out. I know how they were separated. All right. It's not written right here though. But we know that it happened. Again, I'm just reinforcing this point. Go ahead and keep reading.
And give it to her in her hand, and send her out of his house. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife.
So now it's a legal matter because she can go and be another man's wife. So that like how do we that's how do we determine what's going on with that? Right? How do we determine if she went out and was and became another man's wife? There will obviously have to be evidence of that. It's important to know if we have evidence of that because of what the next verse says. Read.
And if the latter husband hate her, and write her a bill of divorcement, and giveth it in her hand, and sendeth her out of his house, or if the latter husband die, which took her to be his wife, her former husband, which sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife, after that she is defiled. For that is abomination before the Lord, and thou shalt not cause the land to sin, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance.
So did you understand? Did you understand that or you need me to break it down?
Can you break it down?
Okay. So what this is saying here
Wait,
is
my bad. Excuse me. Excuse me. Can I take a stab at it?
I'm sorry?
Can I take a stab at it?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So, from what I read, I believe that is saying, okay, like she has a husband, he give her a bill of divorcement. She goes and she can be another man's wife because she got that bill of divorcement. Now,
Hmm.
if he the second husband divorces her or dies, the former husband, the first husband, cannot go and remarry her because then that would be an abomination.
Exactly right. Okay, exactly right. But the point in coming here is to show these are all matters that have to be established. Like it has to be established that this was indeed this first man's wife, right? That means they had records. That's the point I'm making. They had contracts, they had ketubas to determine that this was indeed this man's first wife, and then he divorced her, and then she got married to somebody else. They have that contract. There's proof that she was then married to somebody else, and then he divorced her. If there wasn't, then that first guy, he'd be like, well, yeah, that was my, I did have a little fling, but that wasn't really a marriage. But no, there's documented proof that these marriages existed. It's right there in the text. Does that make sense, Aaron?
Yes.
All praise. You couldn't establish if a woman was married or divorced to a first or second husband if you didn't have a contract. or an agreement there, if you didn't have nothing set in place in the eyes of two or three witnesses, you so that means you can't just two or three witnesses is necessary, so you can't just draw up a ketubah by yourself and forge sign it, right? There's two or three witnesses to say that this ketubah is legit. Of course, it was all done this way. How else could it be done? All right, we some of us don't be thinking, man. I'm telling you, and it's frustrating. Okay, so now there are three ways a marriage is biblically legitimate. All right, one, and the most common way and righteous way is what we've all just heard over the last hour, hour and a half almost. Okay? Is via contract, covenant, ketubah. All right, is the word the Hebrew word for it. We've clearly showed that, and this is to document responsibility, accountability, and inheritance. That is how a union is formed. That is the purpose of a to establish those things. Very simply. The second way, and all of them obviously have to have two or three witnesses, right? Just in case the contract is breached. Second, dowry, which is the giving of gifts or wealth and or labor. Go to Genesis chapter 34, verse 12.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 34 and verse
No,
12.
no, 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 24.
Oh, no bad.
Actually, I'm sorry. Wait, one second. Wait a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's my fault. Yes, I do need 34, verse 12. Okay.
All right, this is the book of Genesis, chapter 34 and verse 12. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me. But give me the damsel to wife.
So we're going to get into this story deeply. All right, this is the story of Dinah and Shechem. But I'm just showing you that this was a way that was done through what? A dowry. Okay. You can give a gift, and it was determined between the father and the prospective son. Okay. So that is another way that we see in the Torah. Go to now Genesis. Do I want Genesis 29 and verse 18? Yes, Genesis 29 and verse 18.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 29 and verse 18. And Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter.
So I'm just showing you dowry in the form of money, resources, and or labor. This is how we see it being done. And of course, there's witnesses to that. Verse 3, or the third method, which is the least uh, desirable and accepted method, right? And a method that our sages actually forbade to keep a fence around Torah, which is the intercourse. All right. Go to Genesis chapter 24, verse 67.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 24 and verse 67. And Isaac brought her unto his mother, Sarah's tent, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife. And he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death.
Okay. So this is a third way. Now, here's the kicker though. The kicker is everybody forgets what happened leading up to that. All right. They that was the consummation of their marriage. They did all the other stuff beforehand. See that? Watch this. Go to verse 22.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 24, and verse 22.
Mhm.
And it came to pass, as the camels had done drinking, that the man took a golden earring of half a shekel weight, and two bracelets for her hands, of 10 shekels weight of gold, and said, Whose daughter art thou? Tell me, I pray thee, is there room in thy father's house for us to lodge in?
Read.
And she said unto him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, which she bare unto Nahor.
So this was the woman that got laid with in that tent. Before she got laid with in that tent, she was decked out. She got decked out with gold and gold earrings, and you understand. Her parents got gifts. As you continue to read down in that chapter, right? He didn't just take her and lay with her in the tent. Right? He still there was still a dowry given and things like that, right? So a representation of a dowry or a wedding gift, right? There's a formal announcement. This is who I am. This is what we want to happen. We want my master to marry your daughter. He didn't just take her and lay with her, right? Go to verse 50.
Verse 50. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, The thing proceedeth from the Lord. We cannot speak unto thee bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before thee. Take her and go, and let her be thy master's son's wife, as the Lord hath spoken.
So that's your two witnesses right there. Laban, which is the brother, and Bethuel, which is the father, said, look, whatever Abraham said, because the text earlier said they saw that she came back with stuff with this gold on and was like, oh, wow. And then the servant said, hey, I'm looking for a wife for my master's son. And they said, look, every this whole story that you told us, we can't speak bad or good, but we seen that you came with the goods. So we know he got some money. We know our daughter is going to be taken care of. And behold, that goes before you. There you go. That all happened before she got laid in the verse we just read. All right. And then what also happened? Go to verse 58.
Verse 58. And they called Rebekah and said unto her, Wilt thou go with this man? And she said, I will go.
So you have consent of the woman. All the process that we just talked about with the Most High in Israel, we're seeing here again. So yeah, even though the parents and father they was down, okay, she good. That would be a good prospect. And then they had a little feast and things like that. But then they still asked her, it sounds good, but do you want to go? So there is consent there by the woman. The woman has to consent, right? And say, yes, I do, or no, I don't. Yeah. So she didn't just get taken into a tent. And now they're married, and that's what made them. No, it was already agreed with prior to, right? There was order. It was established that this was going to be happening by multiple witnesses. So even in that one scenario, brothers go to. There's probably another one with Jacob and Leah. We'll get to that. Even with all of that, opposition is still there in those texts surrounding it. So now, these are the ways that the law and the testimony teach us how marriage was engaged in practice. This is a biblical marriage. So now, what I need everyone to pause and do right now is consider and ask yourself, if my partner, God forbid, goes into a coma tomorrow for 6 months and doesn't remember anything, what proof do I have that we're married? What proof do you have? All right, well, we got kids. This is our child. Well, I don't remember making that child. It's important to really think about these things. We gotta get outside of our flesh for a moment, and we really have to contemplate on how exactly we are moving and what we are doing in our lives. This is what biblical marriage is. If anybody has any other scriptures that can show what a marriage is properly from step one to step two to step three to step four, as I just did, please present it. Please present it. All right. So now but you're gonna have to present it though. Like you can't. I don't want to just hear I disagree. What do you like? Okay, you disagree, and what's your viable antithesis? How was marriage done in Torah? Show us in the Bible how marriage is done lawfully and correctly versus whoredom, because we see both. Then you have to have something. Okay. If not, it's just you're in a student's position. You have to be a student. You're not a teacher on the topic. You don't know what's going on. So now let's go to the other side of this thing. Conversely, the law and the testimony show us what biblical whoredom is. It is a sexual, spiritual. Right? We see both examples: sexual slash spiritual intercourse outside of marriage. If you are in marriage, it is adultery when that happens. If you are not in marriage, it is harlotry. If you have children, they are children of whoredoms, according to the Bible, right? And I don't want this to offend anyone. I'm not trying to offend anyone. I will start with myself. I myself am a child of whoredom. Being a child of whoredom doesn't mean that, God hates you or, you can't be successful in life, right? We have children of whoredom in the scriptures who are prominent, okay? And we'll talk about what that means, right? And we have a whole generation like this, all right? So biblical whoredom is sexual intercourse between two people without a covenant in the presence of at least two witnesses. That's what biblical whoredom is. Biblical whoredom, I'll say it again. I want to make sure that it's super clean for everybody to understand. Biblical whoredom is sexual intercourse between two people without a covenant in the presence of at least two or three witnesses. That's what it is. No more, no less. Now, of course, you have the entire spectrum, right? From, a professional whore to just, a hot girl summer whore to I just made a mistake one time whore. It's all the same, right? It's all the same. I want to make sure I like kind of like take the sting out of the word from the perspective that we have of it today, and we're going to do so through the Bible. Okay. So now adultery is Strong's H5003 Naaf, I believe, or Nof, which is adultery. Okay. That's what sexual intercourse is when a woman is contractually and covenantally married with someone else. If this intercourse happens and she's a single woman, that is Zana, which is Strong's H2181, which is a word for whoredom. Right? Just a word for whoredom. An outline of biblical usage of that word is to be an harlot or act as an harlot. Right? So it covers the spectrum of literally that's your profession, all the way to you. played the harlot, the scripture says, one time to get what you want. Right? So that is those distinctions there. Nevertheless, that's what biblical whoredom is. Okay? So this word covers, like I said, professional prostitution or a simply terrible life decision. There is both spiritual and physical zana. Spiritual and physical zana or whoredom, as the Bible calls it. Go to Leviticus chapter 20, verse 6.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 20, and verse 6. And the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits, and after wizards, and to go a whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul, and will cut him off from among his people.
So I'm talking about right now spiritual whoredom that the Bible talks about, right? Because in our spiritual marriage, Bible talks about us going extensively, especially in Hosea, into that spiritual whoredom. Okay. So here I wanted to show the spiritual side of the word Zama. So this here is talking about a profession, right? Somebody who has a familiar spirit. That's a high level of spiritual whoredom or harlotry. You're literally are you are the guy that or the woman that people go to get tarot card readings and so forth and so on. And then you have those who go to them. You just might be curious, you believe in God and you go to church, but you keep hearing about these tarot card readings and you kind of want to see if they're true and all right. So then you just kind of go and dibble and dabble a little bit. It's still order. You're not literally the sorcerer, but you're playing sorcery, if you will. All right. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It definitely does make sense.
All right. So I'm only asking to see if you walking with me. All right. Making sure you're walking with me. So now let's go to mm, Leviticus 19, verse 29.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, and verse 29. Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, lest the land fall to whoredom, and the land become full of wickedness.
That's the penalty of whoredom. The land falls into wickedness and immorality. Huh? But beforehand, we see a command that the father, I'm showing you consistently, this starts with the man. Marriage starts with the man, and so does whoredom. I'm teaching you guys something. Marriage starts with the man, whether it's the father or the husband, and so does whoredom. Whether it's the father being a pimp, or the husband being a pimp, or the brother or whoever. That's what it starts with. As the head, we have to recognize that and take accountability. We always want to go in on the woman is this and she using her body and da da da. What else is she supposed to do? Duh. She's the weaker vessel. She's using what's the strongest, quality that she has. It starts and ends with us, says the law. I'm showing you right here. Fathers, don't prostitute your daughter. Don't do things like, yeah, man, it's hard times right now, but I got a beautiful daughter though. Right? That happens. And you just do it one time, right? It ought not to be done. So notice it doesn't say though, like, oh, there's some death penalty for it. Right? Do we actually see a penalty? Do you know what the penalty would be if a man did prostitute his daughter?
I don't know what that would be.
Right. We don't see one written here. All right. I know. We don't see what's written here though. It's just another oral Torah jab. All right, real quick. But nevertheless, the point is that we see that there is a law saying that you should not prostitute your daughter, right? To make her be a whore. All right, so we see that it is a command for a father not to do that. What is to be understood again is that the men are the originator of biblical whoredom. They are the ones that start the woman out being a whore. Okay? Women cannot be professional whores without men. You can't. You need a pimp. You need a John. This is common knowledge. Why? Because you're a woman. People can they can just overpower you and just say they're going to pay you and not pay you, right? And then, of course, on another level, it takes a man to actually sleep and engage with you to make you profitable. So either way you look at it, it starts with the man. Right? Now, this doesn't mean that they can't play the whore without a man. They certainly can. All right, women can play the harlot, as we're going to learn here. Okay. And this is done to achieve the desire of a woman's heart. A lot of women in Israel are playing the harlot unbeknownst to them. You're playing the harlot being called a wife, right? You're playing the you know you're not a wife, right? But you're playing the harlot to feel like a wife. There's different reasons, as we're going to uh, discuss in the law, why a woman would play the harlot. Right? That's like making a life decision, kind of dibbling and dabbling one time over here, but my body kind of super low. It's only like one or two, right? That's the kind of playing the harlot the Bible is talking about. You're not out there just going all crazy and selling it, right? It is levels to it, but you just want a family. I just want to have a child, and let's just get together to create a child and that kind of thing. That ought not be done. We're doing it as a people, but it ought not be done, right? That is folly in the Bible. Okay. So now let's go to Leviticus 21 and 9.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 21, and verse 9. And the daughter of any priest, if she profane herself by playing the whore, she profaneth her father, she shall be burnt with fire.
Right. So specifically, Levitical priest's daughter, her consequence, so we do see a consequence for the daughter of a Levitical priest. If she plays the whore, why? Because she profanes her father. So she's burnt with fire if she's a Levitical priest daughter. You see that there?
Yes.
Yes. But it does, the point that I came here for is to show that it says if she it says she profane herself by playing the whore. Right? So that's what that's going into. You're acting or moving like a whore. You make a whorish decision, if you will. You lay carnally with this man over here real quick one time, real quick fling, right? There's a punishment for a Levitical priest daughter because she profanes the father, the text says. All right, but we don't see what if a Benjamite woman is a whore? What if a Judite woman is a whore? What if the rest of the tribes, right? They decide to go into that pathway. Huh? Let's get this example here. It's important. I'm gonna go to Genesis chapter 38 and 1. I'm gonna read this and narrate it for sake of time. Almost at 2 hours. We do have much more, by the way. Yeah, I already had part two in here. We might have to break it up again, depending on where we at in time. Check the temperature, Clubhouse. What's going on, Clubhouse? Shoot. You don't see nothing? All right. All praises to the Most High. Must be all right then. Genesis 38 and 1. It reads, and it came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adullamite, whose name was Herah. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went in unto her. And she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name And she conceived again and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. And she conceived yet again and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Chizib when she bare him. All right. So I'm just showing here just a quick backdrop. We got Judah, right? You know where I come from. My forefather, he decided to go away from his brothers and he dwelt in another land and he got him a Canaanite woman and had him three sons. Okay. So reading on in verse 6, and Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. Okay, so Tamar is a wife that was given to Judah's first son, was wicked, the Lord kills him. Verse 8, and Judah said unto Onan, go in unto thy brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. All right? So Judah tells his second son, go lay with this woman, take her to be your wife, and raise seed to your brother. All right? To Tamar, right? Or you know, make Tamar your wife. And Oman knew that his seed, or that the seed should not be his, and it came to pass, because that's a matter of inheritance, right? That's a matter of inheritance. So he's saying, I know the inheritance isn't going to go to me. Okay? So this is why he did what he did here. Reading on. When he went into his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest he should give seed to his brother. Remember, the brother is the firstborn. So then the inheritance would go to the son. It wouldn't go to him. And he's creating the son. So he's like, no, I'm not about to do that. All right. So he spilled the seed on the ground. Okay. Verse 10. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord, wherefore he slew him also. So God killed the second son. 11. Then said Judah to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow at thy father's house, till Shelah my son be grown, for he said, lest peradventure he die also, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. So then he tells Tamar, who had done nothing wrong, she's a good woman, she just, you know, her husband's died. Right? Go stay a widow, stay with your father. That's what the man told her to do. Now, technically, right, she's the daughter-in-law because of the sons that she married. All right, so he's treating her as a daughter and saying, hey, this is what I want you to do, daughter. So she's okay. So now, this is what's happening. And in process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. So this is some time that goes by after that. And Judah was comforted and went up into his sheep shearers to Timnah, he and his friend Herah the Adullamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnath to shear his sheep. So it was a long time, and then Judah's wife died. And so sheep shearing is, you got to go and you got to, cut off, the sheep hair because, it's too thick on them and things like that. So, you have to travel, and it's just a thing. Everybody knew that you had to do it a certain time of year anyway. So it was told, excuse me, to Tamar, this is what Judah's doing. He's on his way. Right? It's been a long time. She's been in her father's house. She's waiting. right? She's single. She's a, very attractive woman. She's waiting, but she ain't got no man. She ain't had no man. Nobody's been contacting her. She hasn't reached out. Shula's supposed to be, or Sheila's supposed to be, uh, her husband, but she's just like, what's going on? So she was told Judah's coming, right? And verse 19, and she arose and went away and laid by her veil from her and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent, actually, wait, I got too far ahead of myself. Let me go back to verse 14. And she put her widow's garments off from her and covered her with a veil and wrapped herself and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnah. For she saw that Sheila was grown and she was not given unto him to wife. So this is her logic. Now you got to understand women, right? Especially in the ancient world, women's uh, goal in life, their most their best attribute would be to have children. Right? That is what they desire most in life. That is what brings them honor. That's what brings them glory. Right? That is what counts them blessed, if you will. If they have children, right? If they have a family. She's a widow twice. She wants a family. So what does she do? She says, I'm going to take matters into my own hands. All right. She took off her widow's garments and she said, I'm going to go and meet Judah. All right. I'm gonna catch him. Right. So verse 15, and Judah saw her, he thought her to be an harlot. He thought her to be a harlot because she had covered her face. What is she doing? She's playing the harlot. Why is she playing the harlot? Is she playing the harlot because she's a professional whore and, you know, she just has this promiscuity issue where she wants to jump from man to man? No, she just wants children. This is showing you that women play the whore for reasons that are righteous, right? In a wrong way, okay? But there's weighty matters in the law, and we'll see what ended up happening, right? So verse 15. Verse 16. And he turned unto her, by the way, and said, go to, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. So he seen her, and, she called his attention for sure. That goes to show what, she looked very good. She knew what she was doing. All right. And brothers right here would be like, see, she knew what she was doing, man. That's awful. That's what these women be doing. They be setting us up and they know they look good. And look what she did. Right. She did. All right. Reading on. And she said, what wilt thou give me that thou mayest come in unto me? All right. And he said, I will send thee a kid from the flock. And she said, wilt thou give me a pledge till thou send it? So he's saying, look, you see, I got all this oxen, girl. I got you. We got it. So like giving her a kid from the flock, like you know, that's a big deal back then. That's like, that's giving you like a few $1,000s. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know exactly what that's like in today's translation. I do know today a kid of gold isn't, it's going around $300, but you got to think back then it's a different value system. So we're talking about, a few $1,000s, maybe $5,000, $10,000 worth. See, I got you. I'll send you a key for just, do this real quick. So obviously he's going to sheep shear. So that means he has to sheep shear them first, and then he would send her, the goat. So she asks for a pledge. Like, okay, you have to go do that first. I know that. I'm not going to have the kid exactly when you lay with me, right? Plus, it was her plan anyway, because she knew he was going to sheep shear. So she's caught him before he went to shear his sheep so that she can collect a pledge from him. A pledge is just a token to say, hey, It's like collateral, if you will, right? So for example, if you want to go and rent a car or whatever like that, you got to have your card on file, right, or whatever. That's a pledge, if you will. So he, she asked him for a pledge until we get the goat. Verse 17, and he said, I will send thee a kid from the flock. And she said, wilt thou give me a pledge till thou send it? And he said, what pledge shall I give thee? And she said, thy signet and thy bracelets and thy staff that is in thine hand. And he said it, and he gave it to her and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. Right? So, for this exchange, what I want, and so this also goes to show, right, that, you know, this was a whoredom situation. This was not a marriage contract, right? This was biblical. This is an example of biblical whoredom. But we see her reason and rationale as to why she began to move this way. She was in a contractual and legally lawful marriage established by, Judah and her father, right? But then she decided to move outside of that because Judah did not keep his end of the contract in giving her Sheila. So she said, I'm going to get my child and my family somehow. Maybe it'll be you. You'll like me and deal with me then. But I need my babies though. Right? So reading on. And she arose and went away and laid by her veil from her and put on the garments of her widowhood. So she switched back up. And Judah sent the kid by the hand of the friend of the Adulamite to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he found her not. So then, he's going back. He's like, oh, man, get my pledge back, get my stuff back. Here's the kid. But she wasn't there, obviously. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, where is the harlot that was openly by the wayside? And they said, there was no harlot in this place. That lets you know what? Harlotry is also controlled again by the men. He's asking the men of the city, where y'all harlot at? That y'all, we don't have a harlot here, right? Just reinforcing it. Reading on. And he returned to Judah and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said that there was no harlot in this place. And Judah said, let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and thou hast not found it. So what Judah said, look, man, look, that's because it's embarrassing. Like you're literally actively going around town now at this point, looking for a harlot that you owe money. So he's saying, bro, let's just let her have the pledge and let's get out of here because it's a shame. That also lets you know you shouldn't be doing it, right? We did it, but it is a shame, right? Judah did play with what he thought was a harlot after his wife died, but he understood it was a shame. He's just trying to get his, you know, rocks off, so to speak. Excuse my language, right? But he's like, let's just let her have the pledge and go. Reading on. Verse 22, and he returned to Judah, and verse 23, excuse me. And Judah said, let her take it, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and thou hast not found her. And it came to pass about 3 months later, right? 3 months later, right? That it was told Judah, saying, Tamar, thy daughter in law, hath played the harlot. You see that? And also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. See that? So what it was described as it was told to Judah, which is how we know what it is in the Torah. Tamar played the harlot, and she has a child in whoredom. So that is the qualification. That is what your sexual relationships are that are not established by a covenant in two or three witnesses. All right, you're playing marriage, you're playing house. All right. And the children are children of whoredoms. It's just that simple. That is clean, crystal cut in the scripture. Not my opinions, not my feelings on the matter. Right? Reading on. And it came to pass, I'm gonna jump to verse 25. No, let me just keep reading to verse 24. And also she is with child by whoredom. And Judah said, bring her forth and let her be burned. Right? Bring her forth and let her be burned. We just read in that law, right? Judah is, it's also, that's a kind of a deep point. Judah is a priest, right? Because that's the law of that priest. Oh, she's supposed to be burned. She's profaned me. No, Doc, you profaned yourself, right? You played yourself. So he's like all gung ho, like, bring this girl out. Can't believe she done played the harlot. And I told her she was supposed to. Oh, okay. Reading on. And when she was brought forth, she sent to her father in law, saying, by the man whose these are, am I with child? And she said, discern, I pray thee, whose are these? The signet and bracelets and staff. And Judah acknowledged them and said, she hath been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shelah my son, and he knew her again no more. Mm, mm, mm. So he didn't say, man, you wicked, I'm gonna put you to death because you tricked me. Right? You posted up, you knew what you was doing. You knew that you was foul. No. He acknowledged, man, I broke my end of the agreement and she broke hers with me. That's cold. Right? Now they weren't married, but he didn't kill it. And then you have two children of whoredom from Judah. Right? So we see this right here in the Torah. That's not a marriage, right? It was biblical whoredom, but we see children produced, and we see that they are his sons, right? But they were supposed to be his grandsons. Okay, so this is a biblical example of what whoredom looks like, you know, for a righteous purpose, because he talks about her righteousness there. Says she has been more righteous. Then talked about, her being wicked and being a whore, right? And shaming her. So it's important to understand this concept, because a lot of our people, we get into these situationships, and of course we have children, and you know our families are involved and things like that, and that's what we see all right here. Families involved, fathers both involved, know each other, sons dealt with her, right? But that's not a marriage, though. It's still not a marriage, right here in this text. All right. So that is for all of our brothers and sisters who's like, shacking up together, so to speak. You 4 or 5 years, 10 years in, you got this family, y'all don't have nothing contractually binding you all together. You just, have these children, and you just saying, yeah, we're married, we're this, we're that. Not according to the text. You have to show me, and you would have to show me according to the text. I can show you in the text where you're not. That's the thing. Now that is being established, I'm gonna show you in the text that you're not. You have to show me in the text that you are. If anybody has any other antithesis, all right. So now let's go to Judges 11, verse 1.
This is the book of Judges, chapter 11, and verse 1.
Uh-huh.
Now, Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty man of valor, and he was the son of an harlot, And Gilead begat Jephthah.
See that?
And
He was the
Gilead,
stop right there. And he was the son of a harlot. See that? Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty man of valor, but he was the son of a harlot. Teaching you something. Read.
and Gilead's wife bare him sons, and his wife's sons grew up, and they thrust out Jephthah, and said unto him, Thou shalt not inherit our father's house, for thou art the son of a strange woman.
For thou what?
For thou art a son of a strange woman.
In our culture, once you had marriages in whoredom, or not marriages, once you had children in whoredom, right? They're considered illegitimate for purposes of inheritance. That's the issue. It's not that they are, hated by God and they can't be a successful person, as we see here. He's a mighty man of valor, right? He's well known, but he's gonna have inheritance issues. And that's what we don't understand as a people. That's the problem with having children that are quote unquote illegitimate, not under the construct of a covenanted marriage. You have inheritance issues, inheritance denials. You will not inherit this because you are the son of a harlot, a strange woman. See that? So that was our culture. All right. So I wanted to point that out just to further go into the necessity of marriage being set up properly. All right. So now many of us have done this thing whereby you first lay with the woman and then declare you are married. I'm going to talk about this now. That is not how it works. You are playing marriage, you're playing house. Again, go to Genesis chapter 34. Actually, I'm going to read Genesis 34. Right. We're going to get this example. Right? To all the brothers that you go out there and you game up the woman and you lay with her, and then it's like, well, now we married, sister. We married, babe. Me and you together forever. She's like, okay. All right. Let's see. Let's see if that's how it works in the text. Okay? Genesis chapter 34 and 1. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which he bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. So Dinah, she's, the daughter of Jacob, first Israelite daughter of Zion, if you will. First Israelite daughter of Zion. She's just going out, I'm in a new land. I'm going to go see the daughters of the land. Let me go see my sisters. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled. Mm, 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 mm. Aaron, what's going on right here?
I'm sorry, I got distracted.
Okay. I read Genesis chapter 34 and verse 1. Can you read?
Yes.
Read Genesis. I'm going to have you read. Genesis chapter 34, verse 1.
It's the book of Genesis, chapter 34, verse 1. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her.
What happened right here?
Well, there was Dinah, the sisters or the sister of the 12 sons of Israel. She was out, and there was a man another another nation that went and slept with her.
Okay. Yeah. So he's not just any man, though. He's the prince of the country, right? So it's his land. So she went, Dina, to go and have a good time. See the sister, she wasn't going out there to meet a man. right? Technically, but the man, right? The man of the country saw her, and it says he took her, lay with her, and defiled her, right? Now, there are some individuals don't have a good understanding of this text, so I asked you, and some people will say, you see, he raped Dinah. No, no, he did not. All right. When it says he took her and lay with her and defiled her, right? That does not mean rape, right? The text that we read earlier said that he took Rebecca, right, and she be in his mother's tent. No, no, she was taken into the mother's tent, and he took her, and she became his wife. So it's using the same language there, and we don't say that that was rape there, right? So we got to break down what just happened right here first. Okay, so this is Genesis 34, 1 and 2. Defiled does not mean grape here. It is humiliation or embarrassment. So the understanding is that this sexual intercourse that occurred was like a public act. Right? He just seen her because she's out there with the daughters chilling. And he's like, "Oh, I see. She a new thing. What was that? Oh, she's new in town coming in. Oh." And it was kind of like a, public thing, right? I don't know, maybe they went to the bathroom or whatever the case may be, and he did his thing. That is what that means. Defiled meaning humiliated, embarrassed her, shamed her, right? It wasn't done like, hey, I'm gonna take you to my tent and wine and dine you, and we over here, and it was like this sacred thing. No, it was like a quick, like, you go to a party or something, and then you see somebody, and then y'all kind of duck off to the bathroom kind of deal. That is what is being described right here, right? That happened. Okay. So it's important to note he did not do this in the context of marriage. He wasn't like, hey, shorty, you the love of my life, and I want to make you mine. We're gonna be together forever. No, he just seen he's the prince of the city. It's his city. He seen the new girl in town, and he took her and lay with her. Okay, but she just so happens to be the first daughter of Zion, though. All right. So she's not just any woman. Okay. So verse 3. Let's read verse 3.
Verse 3. And his soul clave unto Dinah the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. And Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, Get me this damsel to wife. And Jacob heard that he
Stop right there. Stop right there. So now we see after the intercourse was had, then he's like, we got to make this official. I need you to get, like, I don't want this to be a one time thing. You know, I really love this. This wasn't like the other one time flings that I've had. You know, I ain't gonna get too graphic or nothing like that. But afterwards he, like, the clarity wasn't, oh man, that was a nice day. The clarity for him was, I need this for life. Now we need to go back and make this official, make this uh, a marriage, right? So what it shows is that intercourse was not an act of marriage. It did not determine or decide that she was his wife at all, right? She just was a woman that had been defiled. Okay? So now, that was verse 4. We see his father, he goes to his father Hamor, who's the absolute ruler of the city or the land. Get me this woman to wife. Now let's read verse 5.
Verse 5. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field. And Jacob held his peace until they were come.
What?
And Jacob held his peace until they were come.
Jacob heard that this happened. That's how that reinforces that this was like a public thing. Like it was the talk of the town. Everybody heard about it. Everybody knew about it. It was a public thing, right? And Jacob heard about it. He didn't like it, but he held his peace. What this just goes to show? Goes to show, hey, I know you just took my daughter and did that. I'm not okay with it, right? That's how come it's saying he held his peace, meaning he was angry, he was upset about it, but he did not take action. He did not voice his displeasure at that happening to his daughter, right? He says he held his peace until the sons were come, right? Until his sons came. Verse 6.
Verse 6. And Hamor the father of Shechem went out unto Jacob to commune with him.
Mm-hmm.
And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel in lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done.
Stop. Okay. This is where we gotta slow down, all right, and understand what's happening right here. And the sons came after they heard it. So that means that this is public common knowledge that Dina has laid with this man. Everybody knows, right? So I'm pointing to the fact that, like, this sexual intercourse that happened was public. Two or more than two or three witnesses, right? Knew that that happened. But it wasn't a marriage, though. They didn't say, "Oh, well, now you gotta go." The the sons were wroth. Jacob held his peace, but the sons were wroth. Whenever you see the word wroth, you have to understand that there's punishment or death that occurs after that. You see in the Torah before, right? Where Cain was wroth. All right. So that should let you know the mentality. Wroth means my anger is to a place where I'm now going to do something. All right. There's we're not talking. There's no talking. So they're in a mentality of war. They're not in the mentality of peace, like Jacob. Jacob held his peace. But the sons, we're not going for it. It says you because the action what wrought folly in Israel, which thing ought not be done. So the issue is it is not supposed to be done whereby you have intercourse with the woman and then now we married everybody, right? Look, it's my wife. We gonna do this thing. No, they were wroth with that. It don't work like that, right? You're wroughting folly in Israel. Now, what does that mean? Right? I want to get into what that means here. Okay? Wrought folly. That's what they were. That's why they were wroth. Okay. So in the Bible, wrought folly means to commit a shameful, scandalous act or serious moral transgression that disregards God's laws and disrupts the community. Okay? And I did Google that. You can just Google that and see what does it mean to wrought folly. So that is why they were upset, because the action in and of itself is wrong. It's immoral. It ought not be done. Right? It's confusion to the community. So for everybody that is of the mentality that you can game up a woman and we just take each other and lay down with each other and then we declare that we're married, you're rotting folly in Israel. That's what you're doing. And that's why we are looked at as crazy in the eyes of anybody that is outside of this understanding. How can you think that marriages work this way? How could you even think that and supposedly read the Torah and follow it? It didn't work that way in Torah. Why are you doing it? You're doing it because your mentality is still in captivity, right? Your spirit is still in captivity. You have not been liberated completely by the light of the law. You have not been. And that's why you're still living these lifestyles that are contrary to what we're seeing right here in this text. Reading on. Next verse.
All right. Verse 8. And Hamor communed with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you give her him to wife, and make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you.
Mm-hmm.
And ye shall dwell and ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein.
Mm-hmm.
And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me I will give.
Mm-hmm.
Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me. But give me the damsel to wife.
This goes to show that marriages are legally binding contracts made in order to establish relationships, order, and business partnerships. In another note, it goes to show the pride and arrogance of Hamor. He's not at all apologetic or concerned about the manner in which Shechem knows Dinah. They felt like they could just simply buy Jacob off and integrate his little family into their society. Dinah would just go on to be one of his concubines, but that is not how it works. This is also a demand. Make no mistake about it. They are coming and demanding Dinah be Hamor's wife. So they're kind of strong arming Jacob because they're more and mightier than Jacob and his little clan in their land, which the Bible always repeatedly says. The Canaanites are more and mightier than you, right? This is an offer. Like this is like an offer that you cannot refuse, right? This is like that. Hey man, my son really like you. My son hit. You know he really like his daughter. What you want for her, man? It was like that type of vibe. No, no. Jacob held his peace because he understood the number situation. We're in their land. Dina, you did go out. You shouldn't have been going out, by yourself. And you got defiled, right? By the top guy, and now he wants you. This is a strong arm situation. So, yes, he's saying, yeah, I'm going to give you a dowry, right? But it's like, or else we can go to war. I'm pulling up on you. This is my land you're in. You're in this little tiny little corner. Got all my guys here. So I'm just gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. We'll just integrate you into our society. It's enough for you. You guys aren't that many people. That's what's happening right here. Right? He's forcing this. He's not gonna take no for an answer. Read on.
All right, verse
Verse 13.
13. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully, and said, because he hath defiled Dinah their sister. And
Mhm.
they said unto them, we cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised.
Stop right there. It says, and the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor deceitfully and said, because he had defiled Dinah, their sister. One second, I heard we got a question in the chat. Exodus 22 and 16. I went into that already. I'll hold it at for the end. All right. So yeah, I'll answer that at the end. I already gave that example. Aaron, do you remember what that is though? Let's see if Aaron breaks it down. Let's actually stop. Because we've been 2 hours in, 2.5 hours. Exodus 22 and 16.
And if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. What is this talking about? So I would say if a man, finds a woman attractive and he wants her to be his wife, but he lied with her before, um, then he absolutely have to take her as his wife, right? That
It
would be
says he has to endow her. What does endow mean?
uh, would it that be to give gifts?
Yes, let's go to it. So go to, you know how to use your blue letter?
Yes.
All right, go to Deuteronomy or Exodus 22:16. Do we have any other questions too? This is just like a breakdown. That's one. It's Mahar. You see that? So it says, can you pull that up on your end?
The word entice.
No, endow.
Oh, indict. Okay, let me see. Wrong way. Two, and down.
You know how to use the definition?
Mm-hmm. Mahar. H4117 Mahar.
Read the
Transliteration
definition.
Mahar. The outline of biblical usage to obtain or acquire by paying purchase price. Give a dowry. To obtain in exchange.
Right. That's the biblical usage, and then the definition, where it says a primitive root. You see that when you scroll down?
Yes.
Read it.
Primitive root. Oh, excuse me, my bad.
I'll just read it. It says a primitive root, perhaps rather the same as H4116, through the idea of readiness in assent to bargain. All right. So what this verse means is that if you go and you read the verse again, if you entice a man, if you go and you game her up, say, hey, what's up, girl? You know, what's going on? I want to be with you. And she is not betrothed, meaning she's not promised to somebody else. The father has not made an agreement with somebody else for her, right? And she's two single people. You have to go and bargain for her, right? You don't get to just say, hey, well, this is my wife. No, you now have to be ready to go and pay. There's a price to pay, right? And you have to do that to make her your wife. So this is a law that is set up so that you cannot just lay carnally with single people. You actually have to pay money if that happens to the father. This is set up to protect the father's investment, right? Which is his daughter who does things for him, right? Or he is just her guardian, period. But if you just snatch her away, if you seduce or entice this woman, right? Then now there's a price to pay for that. That is what that law means. Let me see if we have another question.
We do. Yeah. What if there is no one to pay? What if the father is dead?
Right. So then you would have to go into places where the Bible doesn't say, right? So this is, I'm glad the question was asked because that is where the oral tradition comes into play. There's not a text that says that here, right? In the scripture. So this is reinforcing the point that I'm making over and over again, right? And I would go into the oral tradition and they have that all laid out. This is what the oral tradition is. It's for all of these questions. Well, what if this? And what if that? And what if this? And what if that? The judgments and the decisions on all of these questions are found there, but they are not found written in this text here, right? So that is the answer to that question. I don't have that source pulled up to know exactly what would happen in the case of that father dying. But these again are the kinds of conversations that was being had, especially in the New Testament. We see the Pharisees come to Christ and say, well, what if, the wife, she was with seven brothers and then seven of them died. And whose wife is she? And these are oral tradition, these are oral law conversations, and the judgments are written there. But to answer that question straightly, that's where you would find the answer to your question. All right. Saying, can we put her away? Again, this is not a question that I can answer with the biblical text or oral tradition, of course. Okay, now we get some questions. All right. So I guess we can put a pin, in the lesson here because we're starting to get more questions now. He has to pay the virgin now. Yeah, that was a. All right, so this is what we're gonna do. Okay, we're gonna put a pin in this lesson on the YouTube side because we are almost at 3 hours or we're 2.5 hours. Right. So we're gonna put a pin in the YouTube, and you guys that are on YouTube, I appreciate you all. Hopefully you were edified. We're gonna do a part two, right? Maybe a part three where we revisit some points based on some questions that we may have on the clubhouse. Okay. So with that, for the YouTube, till next week, shalom.